Hey everyone, so today we're going to dig into two really powerful moments in your financial life, the crossover point and Coast Fi. Now they might sound kind of similar, but trust me, understanding the difference can totally change how you think about building wealth. So let's figure out what they mean and more importantly, what they can mean for you.
Okay, so let's just start with a really big question right off the bat. Right now, in your own life, what's doing the heavy lifting? Is it the money you're grinding to save every single month? Or is it the money your investments are already making, all on their own? The answer to that question, well, it pretty much defines your entire financial journey.
And this brings up something that I think most of us just assume is true. We have this idea that there's a set order to things. First, you build up some momentum, your portfolio starts to snowball, and then, eventually, you can finally feel like your retirement is locked in. But what if that's not always how it works? What if for some people, that path is completely flipped on its head?
All right, so let's break this down. We're going to start with our first key concept, the crossover point. This one is all about momentum. It's that magical tipping point when the whole balance of power in your financial life really starts to shift.
So here's the textbook definition. The crossover point is the exact moment when your investments start making more money for you in a single year than you are actually putting in yourself. It's a simple idea, right? But the feeling behind it? Oh, it's a total game changer.
And check this out. This shows it happening right in front of us. Let's say you're saving $12,000 a year. Now look at year 10. You're still the hero, right? Your contribution is doing more work than your portfolio's growth. But then, look at what happens in year 11. Suddenly, boom, compounding takes the wheel, and your portfolio is now officially pulling more weight than you are. That is the crossover point.
And I love this quote because it just perfectly captures that mental shift. Before the crossover point, you are the machine. It's all about your hustle, your savings rate. But after that point, your money becomes its own machine, this powerful engine that's growing your wealth even when you're sleeping.
All right, so now let's shift gears and look at our second milestone, which paints a very, very different picture. This isn't about momentum. It's about inevitability. This is what we call Coast Fi.
So Coast Fi answers a totally different question. It asks, if I stopped contributing a single dollar today, would I still be okay for retirement? It's the point where you have enough money working for you that time and compound interest alone will get you to the finish line. You could literally just coast.
Now I know that formula might look a little intense, but it's really just 3 simple steps. First, you pick your retirement number, your big goal. Second, you figure out how many years you've got till then. And third, you just work backward to find out the magic number you need today to let compounding do all the heavy lifting for you.
And this chart really drives home why time is your absolute best friend in this game. If you want to coast to $1 million by 65, a 30-year-old only needs about 181 grand invested. But if you wait just 10 years to age 40, that number jumps to almost $300,000. The earlier you hit this number, the less work you have to do, period.
Okay, so we've got the crossover point. That's our momentum builder. And we've got Coast Fi. That's our finish line in sight. And you'd think, you hit momentum first, right? But this is where the story gets really, really cool. Because for a lot of people, that path flips completely.
So to see how this works, let's meet 2 different investors. On the left, we've got Sarah. She is a super saver, putting away an incredible 50% of her income. And on the right, we've got David, a more moderate saver, investing a very solid 15%. Their strategies are different, and as you're about to see, so are the milestones they hit first. So Sarah, because she's saving so aggressively, actually hits her Coast Fi number at just 32 years old. Think about that. At 32, her traditional retirement is basically secured. She could stop contributing entirely, and she'd still be on track to hit her goal. But here's the twist. She doesn't actually hit her crossover point until 3 years later, at age 35. Let that sink in. Her retirement was already a done deal before her own portfolio started doing most of the work.
So why did her path flip? It's pretty simple when you think about it. She was just putting in so much money, 40 grand a year. It just took a long time for her portfolio's growth to catch up and surpass that massive number. She basically solved retirement with brute force savings before the compounding machine even got into high gear.
Now let's look at David. He's on that more traditional path we talked about. Sometime before he turns 50, his portfolio's growth finally overtakes his $18,000 a year contribution. He hits his crossover point and gets to feel that awesome momentum kick in first. But for him, it's not until after he's 50 that he finally has enough saved up to hit his Coast FI number. So for him, that feeling of momentum showed up years before the feeling of security.
And the logic here is just the flip side of Sarah's story. Because his contributions were more moderate, it was just easier for his investment growth to catch up and pass them. His was a slower, steadier path, where momentum came first, and that feeling of inevitability came second.
So, what does all this actually mean for you in the real world? Hitting these milestones isn't just about numbers on a screen. It's about what they unlock. It's about gaining two incredibly powerful things in your life: stability and flexibility.
This is the simplest way to think about it. Hitting the crossover point gives you this deep sense of financial stability, but reaching Coast FI, that unlocks an unbelievable amount of flexibility in your life choices.
See, once you hit the crossover point, your whole financial plan just feels stronger, more resilient. If you have to pause your contributions for a while, it doesn't feel like a total disaster because your portfolio is now doing the heavy lifting. You have real, undeniable momentum, and that little voice of financial fear in your head starts to get a whole lot quieter.
But hitting Coast FI, man, that unlocks completely new possibilities for your life. You suddenly have the freedom to take that lower-paying dream job. You can take the money you were saving for retirement and put it towards a house or travel. Your long-term future is handled, which means you get to start making choices based on your happiness right now.
So, the biggest takeaway here is this. There is no right order to do this. Whether you're a David who hits the crossover point first or a Sarah who hits Coast FI first, it all just depends on your own strategy. The goal isn't to follow some generic rule book. It's to understand your path and what each of these powerful moments can mean for you.
And that leaves us with one final question for you to think about. Looking at your life right now, what do you crave more? The stability that comes from momentum or the flexibility that comes from knowing your future is secure? Because knowing the answer can change everything about how you measure your progress starting today.